Welcome to Purpose 360. I'm Carol Cohn, and today more than ever before, companies, brands, and their partners need to stand for something beyond the bottom line. I've created this program to provide insights and ideas to share with you so that you can apply them to your work the very next day. The goal here is to up-level your purpose and to benefit companies and society. So please join us. In today's podcast, I was delighted to interview senior executives from 3M. 3M, as you may know, might be your Post-it notes, or it might be your Scotch tape, or it might be your Scotch Brite, or if you've got a horse, it might be your vet wrap that you put on his legs. Well, 3M is a $32+ billion global company with almost 100,000 employees. What we found in this fascinating conversation today is the integration of sustainability and community engagement. These two areas coming together to support a very, very clear purpose and then activated in many profound ways. What you'll learn in this episode is about the integration of sustainability and community engagement. And you'll also hear in so many of Gayle Schueller's and Michael Stroik's responses what authenticity really means in a company that has a clear purpose. And 3M's purpose? It's science applied to life. In every single product, and they have over 55,000 products, with 800 brands, they all have a focus to improve life with science for companies, for communities, for individuals. So join me in this episode. It's one you can't miss. Welcome to the show, Gayle and Michael.
Thank you very much, Carol. It's a pleasure to be here with Michael.
Thank you both.
I always love to start with the numbers, and you have a fabulous page in your sustainability report that's called 3M at a Glance, and it talks about the company's vision, but I really love the fact that in your brand, it's 3M, science, period, applied to life, and that your CEO, Mike Roman, who has been at the company, I believe, for over 30 years. He started in 1988. He's always talking about improving lives. So let's just see how 3M does that. You have sales in 200 countries. You have $1.9 billion with the B dollars spent annually in research and development, 120,000 patents, and over 55,000 products that you sell. And I see that you innovate to deliver about 1,000 new products a year. Your sales are over $32 billion. You have almost 100,000 employees globally. You have over 200 sites. You have 4 business units that are safety and industrial, transportation and electronics, healthcare and consumer. I have to say that right now I've got some Post-it notes from 3M surrounding me with the key prompts for this interview. Scotch Brite. I used a lot of your vet wrap on my horse. And then you have tons and tons and tons of industrial products that are just too many to go into here. But it's just wonderful that you're always innovating to improve products that are going to apply to people's lives and give them a better life. In a recent interview with Katie Couric, your CEO, Mike Roman, was asked, "What is the secret sauce of 3M?" He replied, "Our innovation," with a smile. But then he talked about the company, remember, $1.9 billion in R&D annually, that technology comes from 3M's people, and that 3M's culture encourages their people to be their best. And one of the things, I don't know if our listeners know this, but 3M has a philosophy, and they had this back in the 80s when I worked with them, that 15% of the time of their technologists and their scientists was given to them to tinker, to try new things, to innovate. And now today, with all of our digital platforms, the company also has, in addition to the 15%, a tech forum where there are over 10,000 scientists and technologists can talk with each other from around the world, can share data, can share insights. So I think that's another wonderful engine that drives the incredible innovations from 3M. So let's get into our interview. A little bit of background from both of you to start. Gayle, can you talk about your background, which is quite unique? You're a PhD in materials science.
That's true, Carol. I have my undergraduate degree in physics, so I'm a physicist. That's kind of how I approach things first. And then I have a PhD in material science. I came straight to 3M after getting my PhD and started in our corporate labs, developed new technologies that ended up being of interest for new products. Transferred into business along with my technologies, helped develop new products for that electronics business. I've worked across business and technical lines most of my career in electronics and healthcare and consumer products. And I've even done quite a bit of work internationally, whether it's leading global teams from the United States into Asia and Europe and Latin America, or actually doing a stint where I was the managing director for our 3M Mexico subsidiary. One of the most exciting parts of my career, though, maybe the most exciting parts, is the role that I get to play now, as I serve as 3M's Vice President and Chief Sustainability Officer, guiding our sustainability strategy and how we really manage environmental, social governance aspects around the world to fulfill our vision and our purpose, and with the idea of improving every life. So I'm tremendously honored to work across all of the businesses you recommended and mentioned around the world, and to collaborate with folks like Michael.
So, Michael, why don't you share your background with our listeners?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have a business background by education. So I studied finance in my undergraduate degree and went on to work at Target Corporation based right here in the Twin Cities in Minnesota, and fell in love really fast with this idea of businesses being a force for good in society. Carol, a lot of the work you did led to my belief in this. So thank you for your influence there. And
you're welcome.
I've worked as both a practitioner, at Target in corporate community relations, as well as a research consultant. So I worked as a research consultant for CECP, which is a leading nonprofit working in the corporate purpose space as well. And I joined 3M about 5 years ago with the community relations team. We call ourselves 3M Gives, as you introduced before, and I'm so pleased and inspired every day to work with really what I see as the world's greatest engineers, scientists, business leaders, and playing a role to help empower them to realize their purpose potential and really maximize social impact around the world. So very excited to be here to talk to you about that.
And it's wonderful to have both of you, because one of the core tenets of 3M is that you work in an integrated fashion. You are not in silos. And so can you talk a little bit about both of you about why this integration is important? And then also just talk a little bit about how do you feel about 3M's purpose and this is a three-parter, and the role, the high-level role you both get to play in bringing its purpose to life.
So I'd be happy to talk about it. The collaborative culture at 3M is really what drew me to the company decades ago at this point. The idea that there are so many different aspects of technologies that come together, so many different markets, and the fact that the technology is owned at the center of the company, and that anyone, through that 15% culture that you mentioned at the opening, can collaborate and spend time working with other colleagues across the enterprise. A technology that was developed for street signs may be used and is used for dental amalgams and for electronics packaging. Really innovative technology, and it couldn't be done by one person alone. So it started, with my background in technology, but now it's moved towards recognizing all the business collaboration. 3M couldn't be what it is with that diversity of portfolios and innovation without the collaborative approach. And that's where the purpose comes into play. When you go to our vision and you look at 3M innovation, improving every life, that's really the passion that brings 3Mers to work every day about how can we make that difference. And I find it truly inspiring. I'm thrilled that in my role as Chief Sustainability Officer, I get to collaborate with people around the world to help them bring their purpose to work every day and advance at the corporate level. And so, with that, I'll turn it over to Michael for his view as well.
Yeah, thanks, Gail. I think that, the one thing I'd add, I thought that was a great overview of how this works at 3M. But, we've learned time and again that this purpose is incredibly important to our people. You hear this story a lot. I ask colleagues, what drew you to 3M? What keeps you at 3M? And it's that potential impact, right? That our folks can have on the world when we come together. It's those 51 technology platforms that you have access to, that I have access to as the community relations guy in the company, right? And access to the most talented scientists and engineers. And so we know our people are drawn to companies that are going to set them up for realizing this social impact. And that's why when we think of our culture at 3M, we focus on innovating boldly. We focus on being powered by inclusion, unwavering integrity. These are what our people have said we believe in, and it also helps us define success for the long run.
You manage and direct over $70 million in community investments annually. I assume that's a correct number. That's not a small number. In addition to hundreds of thousands of employee engagement hours. So we'll get to that in a moment. But you both have critical, in today's world, transparent world, where you want the best and brightest, that you both play significant roles, as Gayle talked about, the passion to ignite and to connect, the passion that comes from the 15% culture, that comes from your purpose to certainly improve lives. And I love the way that you are such a bold proponent of science. So I'm just going to turn to a little bit about popular culture right now, which is science is critically important for us during the pandemic. And there's some, companies are coming out boldly in support of science. And I know you're always innovating because you also have this State of Science Index that I think started a couple of years ago. And then that found that 40% of, I guess, the U.S. public didn't believe that science was as important as it is. So how do you get that message across about the importance of science?
There's many layers to that. Michael, one of the first ones that comes to my mind is the work that you and your team do around education and those types of efforts in the communities. Would you like to talk about that?
So STEM education and equity within STEM is really our top focus area for community investment, but also that engagement of our people around the world, right? And we focus on that in a few ways. Number one, we focus on engaging young students, K-12 space in STEM exposure, right? Through after school activities, through in-school programs. And our main goal is to help kids get interested early on. You talked about that State of Science Index. Yeah, that indicates there's some skepticism in pockets of our society, not just here in the United States, but across the globe on the merits of science. And so we hope to show how science can be applied, right, in meaningful ways to improving lives. And I can share a few examples here with you today about how we do that. One is just through our people, right? Through 3M Visiting Wizards. It's a program where we encourage young people to become interested in science and technology and aim to raise interest in STEM. And these 3M Wizards are 3M volunteers set up with resources that we help provide to showcase interesting and fun science demonstrations, hands-on experiments with a variety of topics. And they go to schools, camps, museums, other areas where kids can engage in meaningful ways specifically around this. And then as students grow older and get into high school and in this space, we support experiential learning opportunities for high school students because we think this is such an important crossroads for defining their future, right? And so, Carol, we saw that, one of the podcasts I've listened to of yours in the past is the First Robotics teams. We're a major sponsor of First Robotics all over the world.
Thank you. We love them. We love First. They're client. Yep.
Yeah, they do really fantastic things. And we partner with them to help young people discover and develop a passion for STEM through team sponsorship. They work in ways that's very collaborative, right? So they call it cooperation, where they bring the competition to this, but they also build this cooperative spirit where you're supporting your colleagues and engaging in different ways. And one of the things that we see in engaging with partners like this and taking these partners in is that it's some wild number. I don't have it in front of me, but something like 90% of these students who are engaged in this end up pursuing a STEM sort of major or some kind of pursuit within their career and their life. And so as we engage in equity in this space and encourage more girls to realize these dreams, more people of color and students of color who have been disinvested in so many ways, these are the types of partnerships that allow us to do that. And we invest a significant amount of time and money and resources to advancing these types of initiatives.
And STEM is so important. And I encourage I encourage our listeners to go to the FIRST website, because it's just so exciting to see all these young kids involved with their mentors and just inventing all sorts of robots. And their goal is to truly have an impact on the world. I'm curious. It's wonderful, the deep commitment that you have to STEM. How do you make sure that it's differentiated in terms of your community engagement, as so many other companies are involved in supporting STEM, which is good, but you also want to have your own special sauce, so to speak?
That's where we spend a lot of time listening and learning from our scientists, from our engineers who are these amazing innovators within our company, and learning about how we can engage with students, with teachers in unique and vibrant ways. And through that listening, through that engagement of our people, we learn about the unique ways that we can show up in the schools, like through Visiting Wizards and through these different initiatives as well. So it's that internal listening, but I would also say that you need to lean on your partners. You need to learn how the field of education is evolving, and taking partners in school districts. With one of our largest partners right here in St. Paul is in St. Paul Public Schools. We have regular conversations with the superintendent, Dr. Joe Gothard, and realizing that this field is changing. How they're approaching students and engaging students is so different than it was when I was a kid. And so that learning and ongoing curiosity has been very important to me and the rest of our community relations team as we've grown in this space.
Regarding the pandemic, I know that both on the product side as well as the employee side, because you understand your purpose so well, that you have had a rapid response around the globe. So, Michael, can you share with us what the company has done in terms of activating your employees further beyond your day-to-day STEM efforts?
Yeah, and particularly around COVID-19, our folks have stepped up in really meaningful ways. And I would point to one. We've started as a company making a large commitment from a philanthropic standpoint. In April, we made a cornerstone $20 million investment in terms of cash support, providing support directly to partners like Direct Relief that are out engaging directly with healthcare workers who are on the front lines working in this space. We supported medical R&D efforts among universities all over the world, here in the United States, but in countries in several continents around the world. And then there's also the heart of our investment as well, which is supporting those communities that are affected through our partnership with United Way. Now, our team has a very strong approach around volunteerism called Flexibility for Volunteering. And we allow people to use their time and complete their work as they see fit with a flexibility style, and engage in volunteerism in similar ways. What we've seen is a huge demand and engagement around e-volunteering and e-engagements with different partners conducted through our businesses and through our employee resource networks, which has been extremely powerful. That we've something that we've seen directly overall. One of the best ways that we've supported, though, is partners and leaders within our business from areas like our healthcare business group, who stepped up and took supplies to develop medical shields, products that we don't even manufacture here in the United States. And they've made thousands upon thousands that they've donated directly to Direct Relief, who works with community health clinics in meaningful ways. And so for us, this has been one of the ways that we can drive scale through the manufacturing that we're able to provide on products like this, and the innovation and the expertise that we have within a healthcare business to develop these types of solutions.
And Gayle, can you share with us on the sustainability side, and also touch upon the N95 mask, which became, I know that I believe that Mike Roman did a very good job in terms of increasing your production, but also saying, I know that a portion went to the U.S. and a portion went to affected places around the globe. And I think he stood firm on that. So can you share a little bit about what was it like living through that? And then any other sustainability actions that you took to respond to COVID?
Absolutely. So when we look at, we've been in businesses associated with human safety and medical solutions, healthcare for a very long time. And personal protective equipment is one of the core elements of that way of helping people around the world. In our sustainability pillars, we have three pillars related to circular economy, climate, and community. In 2020, this seems to be the year of community, and COVID is front and center on that. So 3M is active in helping the world respond in addressing COVID-19. The U.S. and the global demand for PPE, personal protective equipment, continues to far exceed the supply for the entire industry. We have shifted our supply of personal protective equipment from mainstream industrials much more towards frontline workers and public health and government responses to the pandemic all around the world, starting in China and going to all of the parts of the world that we address. We are making more respirators than ever before. Since January, 3M has doubled our N95 respirator production on a global basis. We've delivered 800 million respirators all around the world, with over 400 million right here in the United States. By the end of this year, in 2020, we will deliver 2 billion respirators globally, with half of those in the United States. It is
Herculean.
Yes. We've increased from 33 million in the production in the United States to 50 million right now. And we expect by October, we will be up to 95 million N95 respirators per month in October, effectively tripling the amount that we had back in February.
The other thing that you did, which goes to show your holistic, very thoughtful approach, is that you also had fraud efforts, because I think that there was distribution that was maybe gray marketed to the wrong place. And can you talk a little about your protection of the integrity of your products and making sure it got into the right hands?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an unfortunate reality that today in the world, some people choose to do negative things to get themselves ahead, and fraud of things as important as life-saving devices like N95 respirators is a reality today. 3M has been steadfast in going after, we understand our product very well, and we are going after people who try to misrepresent it, who try to misrepresent a solution from 3M that is not a 3M product. So we have been very strong in going after both fraudulent efforts and any price gouging that might be happening in the area. We have not raised our prices, and we are committed to making sure that the right materials are getting to the right people all around the world.
That is so indicative of your values and your purpose in action. In your Q2 analyst call, I just want to point out this number. You secured the removal of more than 7,000 counterfeit websites and more than 10,000 false or deceptive social media posts. So kudos to you. I mean, I think that, your values are so strong and they guide you so well. So I think that, most people, if you don't dive into this, you won't know about 3M, but there's so much depth beyond that 3M logo. Michael, let's talk about, as we talk about passion, let's talk about your employee engagement. And, you talked about STEM. Can you talk about some other areas where you're getting your employees involved? And I saw that you've put a stake in the ground for this year. And in your sustainability report, you asked the question, how many problems can be solved in 300,000 volunteer hours?
That's a huge focus for us at 3M. And 3M Impact is a signature initiative, one of two signature initiatives we have on our team that involves a set of skills-based volunteer service programs. These are put in place to empower 3Mers to lend their business skills, their experience, their energy to make a difference in our community while also developing their leadership, problem-solving skills, interpersonal skills, intercultural understanding capacity, right? And the program was really developed as a result of employee feedback, requesting a platform from our employees to use their skills to help others. So this launched back in 2017. It is a flagship program set in a few ways. Number one is the 3M Impact Global Program. This is in partnership with a great NGO based right in DC, Pixera Global, who partners with us to send 3Mers from around the world to an international location where the social need is great and the work is relevant to our business. And so they're there for 2 weeks, and that's not vacation time, right? That's work time, but it's dedicated and donated to a nonprofit or a social enterprise or a university. And they collaborate full time with these nonprofit organizations focused on social and environmental issues. And, as I mentioned, this serves as a community commitment, and it involves that experiential learning for our people. And that's one of the things that we've learned has been a great business impact for us as we've partnered with leadership development around that. And, one example of an engagement we have there is that I like to talk about is an engagement with a social enterprise called Mimosa Tech in Vietnam. And they leverage Internet of Things to help save water and build sustainability in farming collectives within their communities. And so leveraging a unique use of technology applied in an innovative way, that really speaks to us at 3M. And I will say that Gayle and the sustainability approach and the sustainability mindset of 3M has really has really influenced us in the community relations side to consider engagements like this. And just to close, I would say that we've now branched out to different types of programs around 3M Impact, where we have 3M Impact local initiatives here in the Twin Cities, in Mexico City, in Philippines, in Costa Rica, and Brazil, where we don't have that international intercultural lens, but it's right in your own backyard. How do you engage your people? How do we offer that time off that's paid for people to dedicate to initiatives like this? And it's allowed us to be agile as well as we think about COVID-19 and the effect right here in the Twin Cities. We're working with Pixera Global on a new initiative to support community health clinics within this space as well. And so it's been a really powerful way to engage in the community. We've gotten great feedback from the community partners, but also from our people who look to us for guidance in terms of how they can maximize their own personal impact. And that's been very meaningful for me.
What is your policy about paid time off? Is it a set policy? Is it variable? I know that you're the 3M Impact, the social impact work. What's like 2 weeks? But is it 8 hours, 16 hours, 24 hours? Do you have a set policy?
Our set policy is around flexibility for volunteering. So we have a flex schedule approach that we allow employees to use. We don't have a dedicated number of hours. Now, 3M Impact is a 2-week program, but our guidance to managers who engage with their people on the time that they work in these spaces is at least 3 days. And the 3 days comes from a volunteer match commitment program where we match for 25 hours of service, which is right around that 3 days of work service that we have for an employee. We'll provide a $500 commitment to the nonprofit that an employee is working with here in the United States. And so that's the guidance that we provide specifically around that program. And then, 3M Impact is the 2 weeks that you're actually pulled out of work to be dedicated to the nonprofit, but it's a 12-week program with virtual engagement and kind of builds on that spirit of the 15% culture to allow people to dedicate a portion of their time to something that they find really important.
Can you tell a story or two about an employee that has been involved in 3M Impact? And I bet they come back really touched.
Yeah, we've heard a lot of stories about that touch and that feel and that impact on a person overall. Where we get really excited is when we see employees, and we've seen this not just at our headquarters market, we've seen it out in our plants and our sites around the world. And one individual that we saw come back from his experience came to us and told us afterwards, hey, this inspired me to go take on a new job experience, a new stretch experience within my own career. I never felt I could take this on before going to 3M Impact, being pulled so far out of my comfort zone and realizing what I was really capable of. And that's pretty powerful. When we heard that back, Megan Pharisee is a leader on our team who leads the 3M Impact program and always shares that story with me. And we talk about that on a regular basis, is how do we build on the success we've had, these little stories that we hear that have inspired people to take their lives in different directions and even their careers in different directions as well.
Often sustainability is very left-brained. It's very scientific. It's very measured. It's, I know you've got wonderful goals in terms of being, 100% renewable energy and waste reduction and such. What's your favorite one or two stories about how sustainability has touched your colleagues?
We do think about sustainability in terms of being an effort and ambition towards improving every life. And so we do have our pillars, and we talk about circular economy, we talk about climate, we talk about community. But it's really when it comes home to people that really makes a difference. One of the things I like to think about is, as we've been advancing an effort on sustainability value commitments, we've brought into play a requirement for every new product we launch must have a sustainability value commitment. So it has to have some way that it's advancing the greater good through the introduction of this product into the world. As we were going into that process, it seemed really ambitious and potentially transformative in some areas. And I was a little nervous about how our new product development teams would react to that. And one of the things that's really meaningful to me that came back was in talking in a couple of different individual conversations where people said that finally gave them, pretty junior developers who are working on great science, but didn't feel comfortable bringing their whole self and their whole values to work in their specific technology-driven responsibility. But when they had this sustainability value commitment, suddenly they could come in and ask questions that brought on bigger context that sometimes we don't think about in the early phases. So what if we were to radically rethink this product? If we made a change such that it dramatically reduced our customers' carbon footprint, or we used raw materials that were something different from that could be made from plants rather than plastics, something that had a whole new way of thinking about the portfolio. There's been a lot of those different examples that have come forward where people have felt that this sustainability value commitment and a focus on talking about circularity, talking about climate, talking about how we make a difference in communities really brought forward a difference in the conversations that they're having in those earliest phases of new product development. Is how does this really help improve someone's life? And, some of those products, it's pretty easy to do if you're working on something like an N95 respirator or in the healthcare space. But there have been times when you think about, I'm working on a new roofing granule. How can that really make a difference? In the case of the roofing granules, that inspired a team to really look at what was needed in the space and pulling smog out of the air using a roofing granule. It's inspired other teams, like we were talking before in the call, to look at how do we use renewable recycled materials in Thinsulate or Scotch-Brite sponges. How do we do things in really different ways? And when people come to me and they tell me about how that difference really allows them to express themselves more fully at work, feel more of a purpose in the products that they're making and the way they're spending their days, it just makes your heart feel warm.
It's amazing to listen to both you and Michael. And when I go deeper on these tenets, these principles, that you light up. Your personal passion comes through. And I just hope our listeners understand this incredible insight. And what I'm seeing, Gayle and Michael, is that, you had the 15% commitment for forever. But it seems like the steps up the really big change is, 3M impact and really allowing people to go in the field, or the social value commitment, which I love what you said, Gayle, that, it gave people permission to ask questions and also a greater focus on the 15%. Like, what could we do that could truly improve a person's life? So that's you're up there with like the absolute gold standard leaders, and in my heart, like the Unilevers of the world, who are just embedding into their operations and their philosophies guideposts to truly drive and activate the purpose every day. So it puts chills down my spine. So I'm so excited. We don't have that much more time, but Gayle, I'd love you to talk a little bit about, you've got science for circular, science for climate, and science for community as kind of an operating principle for your sustainability efforts. Can you touch on those three areas a bit?
Sure, I'm happy to. And the story of how they came together is pretty exciting too. When our CEO, Mike Roman, who you mentioned, came on as our CEO for the company, he really wanted to step up our efforts on sustainability and provide a new approach to how we would go after this that would really resonate with people around the world and be contemporary to today's expectations in the world, and how 3M can really make an impact. So we brought forward leaders from all around the company, every different business group, every function, all around the world, as well as an external perspective on what's most material for the enterprise. And we did come up with our strategic sustainability framework with the overall ambition of improving lives through science. And so Science for Circular is really about our commitment to design solutions that do more with less material to advance a global circular economy. We talked about new raw materials, having 100% recycled insulate that fits into this portfolio. It's also where our sustainability value commitment resides. Science for Climate is our second pillar, and this is about promoting innovation to decarbonize industry, accelerate global climate solutions, and improving our environmental footprint. And when I say our environmental footprint, I mean collectively. We work with our customers and actually have a sustainability goal about helping our customers reducing hundreds of millions of tons of CO2 from the environment through products ranging from lighter weight vehicles to more energy efficient electronics. And then finally, we get to our Science for Community, which is about creating a more positive world through science and inspiring people to join us. So creating a more positive world through the science that an N95 respirator delivers, that our wound care solutions provide, maybe even that Post-it notes deliver. But it's also about inspiring people to join us, whether it's through STEM at the high school level, engaging with universities, or skills-based volunteerism and 3M Impact Project. So there's a lot of different ways that we bring these together. And that 3 C's, if you will, the circular, climate, and community, helps our framework come together, helps people speak a common language and engage across our products and our communities more broadly.
I'm curious about how many people did you bring together from around the globe, and then how long did it take for you to work together to develop the framework?
Yeah, when we had done new sets of goals in the past, we had typically, set aside a year and a half to do that. Mike didn't give us that much time. We needed to get this done essentially in 5 months. And so we sent out an employee survey to 96,000 employees around the world to get feedback on what they thought was important. So that was a really important cornerstone and set of stakeholders for us to really understand from. And then we had approximately 25 people that were what I referred to as our dream team of the who's who in the company who could represent any of our key areas in a cohesive way to really bring that together. We had a series of engagement sessions that each person brought in their own perspective, shared their views, and then we went about how do we cohesively bring this together. And we had a number of different scenarios. We brought them forward to our science, technology, and sustainability committee within the enterprise, which includes our CEO, our CFO, our chief technology officer, et cetera. And they helped us come to our final decision and proceed forward with the one that our team was leaning for from the beginning. But it was just a wonderful collaborative group aimed at how can we make how can we make a difference, and what is unique for 3M. With the diversity of our product portfolio, the global nature of our business, it was really important to us that everyone could feel engaged, that all 96,000 employees could be a piece of that sustainability effort and see it in their day-to-day job of where they could make an impact.
Now, how did Mike's area integrate with that thinking?
Mike was very engaged along through the process. So he's the leader of that committee internally, and he made sure that his leaders were involved every step of the way. Each of them has had a specific designee that was representing their office in their area of responsibility among that 25 or so people that we included in the dream team, if you will.
I would love to ask both of you, in terms of developing that framework, what were maybe a couple insights on both of your sides to share with our listeners? There are many companies, especially during COVID, who are looking at their purpose, and especially in the B2B world, because we did some research called the B2B purpose paradox, and we found 86% of companies in all sorts of various B2B sectors, from manufacturing to telecommunications, financial services, healthcare, and such, 86% said they had a stated purpose, but only 24% had it activated. And you have it. So the good news is the B2B world is recognizing, especially the war for talent, especially the importance of truly, providing clarity for direction and then inspiration for job performance. Bring the whole individual to work. But you have done it so well. And obviously the company is you're coming on, I think, your 120th anniversary. So you got a lot of years to learn this. But one or two or three insights from both of your sides that said this is how we applied them to make this integrated framework development work so well?
Well, I would start with it's a continuous improvement effort. So there's always, as much as we are proud of the things that we've done and the progress that we've made, but we're also so aware that there's so much more to be done. So having said that, a couple of insights that I think are really important are recognizing what's authentic and material to you as your enterprise, what's really relevant. And we try to work on that, and then keep it really aspirational. And then as the third, I would say, make sure that the employees, you asked about how we got the employee input and the surveys that we've done, the working group, we went back and followed on with employee working groups and gave them some thoughts, listened to them. I think that having something that's authentic to who you are, something that's really aspirational and engages those employees on things that they tell you they care about, those would be three areas that would be really valuable from my perspective.
I was actively involved in the Science for Community pillar development, and Gayle did a great job of empowering all the great things 3M gives has been engaged in as a part of Science for Community. And I would align my insight is specifically to community relations, is that, again, being authentic to who you are is the most critical thing that you can focus on, because there are a million directions you can go, and you talk to different stakeholders. Everybody has an opinion on what's best, and all could be really good. I am a believer that to be great, you need to focus on who you are as a company, identify your core competencies, capitalize on them, and really drive to that impact. And, going through the framework development with Gayle and her team, I think it's also really important. And an insight I'd have is to go all in, study, always be learning. And be curious about your company and the role it plays in society. It's a great way to be, and it matters. And to ask the questions about why we're doing things, how we could do things better, is really important. And I've learned that I have a lot to learn from the people internal to 3M, which is really fun. But also always looking externally. Organizations out there working right now, the tremendous focus in our society on equity and social justice. You have leaders like Michael McAfee at PolicyLink, right? Where I used to work for him, and I've learned so much by staying connected to him on LinkedIn, reading the research, engaging and pushing myself to grow my muscle in the equity and social justice space to think about how do we apply that at 3M overall. Those are important sort of elements to engaging in our field in general, but in this space and in the journey we've been on, that's been really important to me.
I'm glad you've talked about inclusion and equity, because I just saw last week that 3M announced a new director of social justice strategy. And I'm not sure there's anyone that has that title or that focus in companies now. It's Garfield Bowen. He's been with the company, I believe, for years. And so, I don't know if any of either of you had input on this, or if you didn't, how do you feel about, this very focused action?
I find it incredibly exciting. So Garfield is now our Director of Social Justice Strategy and Initiatives, and he's responsible for driving cross-functional enterprise-wide efforts to develop and execute 3M's social justice strategies. His initial focus is going to be on accelerating racial justice and equity at 3M and in our communities. And he's already jumping in. He's collaborating with us. He's finding a lot of interest actually externally in learning more about this, because I think you're right. It's a unique role and it's so exciting. Mike Roman led an effort on a listening town hall huddle with a number of our key leaders related to social justice recently. And I think that was the primary inspiration that brought this forward. And it's been really exciting to see 3M take a role like this.
Garfield is such an amazing leader in this role now and driving us forward. I think, to me, this is, we have been driving such a great leadership role around diversity and inclusion. Anna Naya is our Chief Diversity Officer and is leading such transformative work for us within 3M and in our community. She's on our board of directors along with Gayle as well. But this almost like respects this difference between diversity and inclusion and social justice as well, right? And it really signals this commitment that we have to consider those structural changes, both internal to 3M, but also in society, that are going to be necessary to really drive true change in this space. And I just personally couldn't be more excited about Garfield's appointment and the leadership he's going to bring to this space for us overall.
It's a very timely appointment. I'm just curious, personally, when George Floyd was killed, and then the country erupted with protests and such, you were at the epicenter. Minneapolis, St. Paul, you're the twin cities, the sister cities. How was that for you, both of you, living through that?
It's a tough question. It was extremely difficult. This shined a light in Minnesota and in Twin Cities and in our country on many of the inequities that we face that have been around, and the disregard for human life and Black lives overall. And so that was extremely difficult. It was also a moment for us, and Gayle and I have talked about this. I've worked with her team. We're engaging in different ways to understand how do we build on our focus that we have explicitly called out equity, diversity, and inclusion as a value, both for our community relations and for our company overall. How do we bring that to life more intentionally? How do we take a step back and look at the role that we can play, right? In particular, as you mentioned at the opening of this conversation, we employ almost 100,000 people across the world. As you think about economic opportunity, you think about the role we play in designing factories of the future and the role that plays on the future of work. We have a unique opportunity to invest and to engage in our communities in very intentional ways to help address inequities. And so that was something that gave us great resolve. And I will also say that as a big part of our response, we signed an external statement with Children's Minnesota alongside other executive leaders. So Mike Roman, as our CEO, stepped up within that regard overall. And we also saw him align with the Minnesota Business Partnership, along other Minnesota business leaders, calling for police reform, right, during what was an upcoming special legislative session. So seeing that action was, offered, me a lot of inspiration for what our future looks like. But being right in our backyard and seeing the effect on that and in our community, it's been extremely.
And my home is, I live in Minneapolis, and the where George Floyd was killed is actually along a bike route that our family often would take. So it was very close to us. We could smell the flames from the riots at night. We participated in some nonviolent protests. And we had a lot of, I'm a mother of three, and we had a lot of discussions, as a family, looking at things and, bringing things to an awareness level that maybe we hadn't enough previously. I think it was a really important time for us to be reading more and listening and seeking out different perspectives, to stretching ourselves, and then in some cases sharing, some perspectives that we've had with others. But it's been a really it's been a really noteworthy time for the entire Twin Cities, but absolutely for Minneapolis. The idea of hearing gunshots at night and, on a regular basis, and trying to navigate whether that was a gunshot or fireworks this summer has been, really critical time and painful time, I think, for the city. And I'm really proud of 3M for stepping forward with the efforts that it's gone through, whether it's the funding that we've talked about, the 3M Social Justice Fund, the collaborative investments that Michael just referenced with children's, the listening sessions, and Garfield's appointment. I think there's a lot more that all of us can and need to be doing. But I think it's been a wake-up call locally right here in the Twin Cities.
Well, I appreciate both of your very candid responses. So thank you. In closing, I wanted to touch upon two words you use a lot. And I would love if you could provide any insights into these two words. Authenticity is used so often for a company to activate its purpose. And obviously 3M has been incredibly authentic about doing it. So both of you, one of you, whatever, any insights to making that authenticity, to finding it, to bringing it to life and to living it in both your sustainability and your community engagement?
I would think that it really goes back to some of the comments you made right at the beginning, Carol, where you talked about 3M is a 100-plus-year-old company coming up on 120 years. We've done a lot of soul searching in that time. There aren't that many companies that survive that long, let alone find new and innovative ways to reinvent and thrive in that time. I think it comes to doing some of the soul searching while you're striving to grow and build your business. And I think that some of the soul searching that I would say we do as a company, that authenticity, we put a lot of effort into figuring out a compelling vision that was unique and authentic for 3M, whether that's that 3M technology advancing every company, 3M products enhancing every home, 3M innovation improving every life. And the way we did that through every company, every life, every home, that was based on an understanding of unique strengths that we have across the enterprise in technology, in manufacturing, and global capabilities, and in the brand that we've built. We know that driving forward our business, we focus every day on priorities with our portfolio, with our business transformation, our innovation, and the foundation of our people and culture. That gets to those core values, that authenticity and around diversity, inclusion, sustainability, and always striving to do more and to do better. I think that it is a company where that culture, the values really come together in an authentic way. And we know that we're always striving to have it be build on the strengths that we have into something better for the future.
what Gayle describes is a growth mindset. And 3M Gives, my organization, is a part of human resources. We work very closely with leadership development. And that focus on a growth versus a fixed mindset is really critical to being your true authentic self, because you think of that potential in the long run and you focus on that listening, that learning, and that growing overall. And so that's the only thing I would add there.
In closing, is there anything I haven't asked or something you want to add?
I think we've been through a really tough year so far overall in a variety of different ways. And it's been very interesting to see our company growing during this time. So thank you for asking all the great questions throughout the interview.
So I want to thank both of you for incredible commentary and insights into 3M. I'd just like to ask my listeners if there's, if there's anything that you want to suggest to us to improve the show, please let us know. Please go to give us some ratings because everybody loves the show, but then they don't have the time to go give it, a rating. And I'd love that on iTunes or Spotify and other places. And lastly, we're all in really, really hard times now. But what we've heard in conversation over conversation, the companies that truly have an embedded and activated purpose, they know where they're going. They know their North Star. There may be high seas and roiling waves, but by providing the clarity and commitment and just moving forward, and I love what you said, Mike, about having a growth mindset, that we will get to a better future. So thank you, Gayle. Thank you, Mike. And I just want to ask our listeners, what is your purpose?